Hi, I'm Daniel Fisher, and on this Synth Clips, we are going to continue with FM. And if you haven't seen the previous FM episode, you have to watch that because none of this will make sense without that. We explain the operators, which can be modulators or carriers, and feedback loops, and various things like that. Very important. But today we're going to talk about LFO. And in some ways, LFO works exactly the way you would expect it on your subtractive synthesizers. But then there's other elements of LFO that are very much different because it's FM and doesn't have a filter, for example. So first thing I'm going to do is I picked an algorithm. I'm just using algorithm 1, which has 1 and 2 in a vertical column, and then 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm not going to use 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm just messing with 1 and 2. And I'm coming over and I've hit edit and I go to my LFO section and I can pick a wave. I currently have triangle. I got a speed, which I'll go like in the 40s. The delay is currently at 0. Modulation depth is at 0. And I'll turn the sensitivity, which can go between 0 and 7. I'll do it about halfway, so 3. And my amplitude modulation is off. So with only operator 1 on, it should be a sine wave, which it is. And I have operator 1 selected, and I'm going to turn up the pitch modulation, like this. And it's really no different from vibrato any other way you've used it. The LFOs go up to about 60 hertz, so you can get a little of that FM kind of modulation sound, but it's mostly for vibrato and tremolo and things like that. And I can control that with the mod wheel by assigning the mod wheel to pitch. And I can also use both, so I could have a little bit of vibrato, and then the mod wheel adds more. I've also got a delay, which means I could have a certain amount of time before the vibrato comes in. And it fades in nice. And so I could set it so that there's just a little bit of vibrato that comes in over time, so I could play a line like this. And there's just a little bit, or maybe a little more. And so most of the time you're not hearing vibrato. There it goes, and then I could add more. And I could add it via the mod wheel or aftertouch or pedal or breath control or all kinds of crazy things. So now I'm going to do the same thing but with amplitude. So I'm going to turn the pitch back to 0, pitch sensitivity to 0, and I'm going to go to amplitude. And the amplitude sensitivity on this one is over here, and so I'm going to turn that up some. And now my mod wheel is doing volume and amplitude modulation. And again, same thing, I could change the speed. I could change the wave shape, triangle, saw down, saw up, and square, and sine, and random. I'm getting random amplitudes. And there's a parameter called LFO Key Synchronize where I can have each LFO going at each key strike so they can be different. Or I could turn it on and they just always lock together. So now I'm going to turn on operator 2, and I'm going to only send amplitude modulation to 2. And because 2 is on top of 1, the modulator on top of the carrier, and I'm going to change the amplitude of the modulator, I'm not going to change volume this time. I'm going to be changing timbre. So I have a triangle wave going. It's pretty close to being able to modulate a filter, except instead of just this hard sweep between here and here, it's changing harmonics that are entirely dependent on what frequencies you're using for your operator and your modulator. Okay, so just a quick recap of what we've talked about. Today we talked about the LFO used in FM synthesizers, and that it can be different shapes from triangle, sine, saw, square, saw up, saw down, and random. And that per operator you can assign a sensitivity to amplitude modulation and or pitch modulation when you're modulating the pitch of a carrier, which is one of the ones on the bottom that you can hear. You're going to get your standard vibrato. When you do the LFO to amplitude of a carrier, which is on the bottom that you can hear, you're going to get tremolo. When you do pitch to one of the modulators that's above it, you're going to get frequency changes of the devices that are modulating the ones you can hear. When you do amplitude modulation, you're going to get timbre changes, almost like a wah-wah, except not quite, because it's not filter based, but it does kind of sound like it. If you have any further questions about Yamaha keyboards, please contact your Sweetwater sales engineer. My name is Daniel Fisher. Thank you very much for watching.